Let me get straight to the point. Don't spend too much time or money choosing your first racket. That's not to say that rackets aren't important. They are. It's just that a beginner has more important things that they should be thinking about. The type of ball would be a perfect example. Now, this is a very brief guide to choosing your first racket. I have produced a longer guide here if you're more interested in the details. The first thing I want to tell you is a general piece of advice. There is no perfect racket for any particular standard or type of player. Rackets are like fashion. What one person loves, another person might hate. The second piece of advice is, if you can, try as many different rackets as possible before you buy. Borrow them if possible. Borrow them from a different range of players, a different range of standards, if you can. That way, you will have a much better understanding of what is suitable for you, what you like when you come to buy your first racket. Of course, be careful, don't damage anybody's racket. Now, the first thing to talk about is the material. Rackets come nowadays in two types, an aluminium alloy or graphite. The alloys are generally the cheapest and they're the most durable. You can literally hit them against the wall. Graphites are better. If you can afford it, spend around $30 to $50, pounds or euros, and buy a graphite racket. In general, they are better than the aluminiums. The next thing to talk about is the racket shape. This is a teardrop and this is a throated racket. In general, I would recommend a beginner start with a teardrop. The strings are longer, which means you might get a little bit more power, but also the racket will be a little bit more forgiving if you don't hit it in the center. The third thing is the price. Do not buy the most expensive racket you can afford. Even if you have plenty of money, you won't be able to get the best out of it. It's like passing your driving test and then driving a Ferrari. You might feel great in it, but you won't be able to drive better just because you've got a very expensive car, and it's the same for rackets. But also, as I just said, avoid buying the cheapest racket that you can find simply because it's the cheapest. You will eventually have to replace it for a better one anyway, and you'll have to do it faster with the cheapest rackets. Now, there are three characteristics that you need to consider when buying a racket. The first one is the weight. Rackets come in lots of different weights from around 110 to around 150. That, by the way, is without any strings or the grommets or the grip. So don't pay too much attention to the advertiser's weight. You don't want a racket that's too heavy. Some people say that it will improve your technique as a beginner. Others say it will make it worse. I think that you want a racket around 140, 150, maybe even 160. The next thing to consider is the balance. Some rackets are head heavy, more of the weight here. Other rackets are head light, more of the weight down by the handle. And some are evenly balanced. I recommend starting with an evenly balanced. It comes back to the point about trying as many different rackets, borrowing as many different rackets as possible. That way you'll have a better understanding of what is comfortable for you. The third thing is the strings. Now, really, a beginner doesn't need to worry about that. You play with whatever comes in the racket, and when the time comes to replace them, talk to the stringer, because the stringers know what they're doing. And the last characteristic is the grip. All grips, or nearly all grips on rackets, are really quite cheap and not very good. You'll have to put another grip on top anyway, and the next video in this series is all about the grip and how to put one on, and I'll show you how to do that. One thing to tell you though is that it will change the balance. So irrespective of if you get a head heavy racket, once you put a grip on, it might become evenly balanced. To summarize, don't spend too much money. You'll only be wasting it. Don't buy the cheapest, you'll only have to buy something new. Don't get a heavy or very light racket, something in the middle. Don't get a head heavy or head light, get an evenly balanced. Try to go for the teardrop shape if you can, but if you've only got these rackets available, that's fine as well. Remember, when you first start playing, you just need to find out what feels comfortable for you, and that comes back to the last piece of advice. Borrow as many rackets as possible. As always, if you've got any questions about rackets in general, please don't hesitate to ask me. Probably if you say, oh, Philip, should I play with this racket? I'm not really going to be able to tell you. I can have a quick look on the internet, see its price, see its composition, and give you a general idea, but I can't say this is perfect for you because there is no perfect racket, remember? If you've got any questions about my videos or squash in general, post those in the comments and I'll reply as soon as I can. If you think my videos are interesting and useful, please consider subscribing. If you do, turn on the notification bell so you get told when I release a new video. This is the playlist of all the videos in the Squash for Beginners series, and this is a video that YouTube thinks is a really good fit for you based on what you've been watching. And thanks for watching. See ya!